If this is your first time here, welcome to the Startup Tank. The Startup Tank is the premier, although technical difficulties aside, climate and impact investor pitch show, where the world's top climate companies moving the world forward, sustainability, impact, financial inclusion, education, they come to pitch to a panel of elite investors. And we've got a great lineup for you today. The Startup Tank is presented by Forward VC, our early stage climate and impact angel syndicate that focuses on investing in early stage companies, moving the world forward, making the world a better place. Today, we're partnered with C3 and Climate Capital. We've got investors here, Daniel Criozore and Michael Crizier. Oh man, I butchered that one. And Michael Lucini from C3. I'll give them a chance to introduce themselves in a second. First, we got to thank our show sponsor for today, Leva. Leva is the 21st century digital SPV. It's 5 seconds to set up an easy SPV. If you're running a fund, if you're running a syndicate and you want the cheapest, easiest way to have 5 investors or 5 million and deploy capital quickly, Leva is the way to do it. With their digitized system, it means that there's no more lawyers, paperwork, etc. It's a fast, simple, easy solution. Forward.vc/Leva, LEVA for more details. And again, this is the Startup Tank where the most interesting founders in the world come, or at least we like to hope so, to pitch. They get 5 minutes in front of our incredible panel of investors. And at the end of the night, we'll choose a startup of the night. If you guys are ready, it's time to jump into the tank now. So the first thing I want to do is give a little introduction to the panelists that we've got. So Daniel and Michael, love to hear a little bit more about you guys. Do you want to go first, Daniel?
Sure. Well, thanks, Matt, for having us and C3 Climate Capital here. Really excited to be here. For context, by day, I'm a product manager with a national lab, and by afternoon, evening, or when I'm not doing my day job, focusing on climate, whether that's with C3 and Climate Capital, whether that's with newsletters or with a number of other incubators, accelerators I scout with.
And Michael, we'd love to hear a little bit more about you as well.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. And thanks for having me. I work with Daniel at Climate Capital. I'm a partner there, and we manage, one of the things we manage is C3, which is a large angel investment syndicate. So we're relatively prolific, I think, in investing in amazing early stage climate tech startups. And I've been doing that for about 1.5 years, and also run a small fund called Exponential, which is investing in early stage climate tech startups with a focus on frontier tech and synthetic biology. So looking at a little bit of the harder tech stuff. And yeah, my background before all this was I'd started a company in the political tech space. So, had scaled that up and have the experience of being a founder.
And now you're here and panelist on the Startup Tank. Thank you so much for coming on. I can't wait to see what you think about the companies. I know you've had a little bit of a sneak preview, and we'll give everyone else a sneak preview in a sec. But first, just to quickly introduce myself. Hey guys, my name's Matt Ward. I run the Startup Tank and Forward VC's Angel Syndicate. We invest in early stage founders moving the world forward. We love the guys over at C3 and Climate Capital, and this is our time to kick things off. But we had a little bit of technical challenges, so I'm still trying to catch up mentally. But I think it's time to jump into the tank, so to speak. So how the Startup Tank works, we have 6 incredible companies: DriftSense, Purifire Labs, Argo, NeoCarbon, Solar Monkey, and Exion. And each of them are doing something, I would say, we've got some pretty game-changing companies on the program today. And they'll each have 5 minutes to pitch our panel of investors, followed by 5 to 7 minutes of Q&A. And then we pick our winners. We pick our favorites. Is everybody ready to jump into the tank?
We have a scoring system.
That sounds like a yes. Then we will. That sounds like a yes. Then we will kick things off with our random generator, so to speak, and we will hand it over to Solar Monkey and Jan Pieter. You want to take it away, Jan?
He's on mute somehow.
I'm so sorry, Matt. I did send you an email earlier today. I had some personal circumstances and I have a daughter to attend for about 15 minutes, but then if I can go afterwards,
no worries.
Apologies.
No worries. No worries. We'll say Putin intercepted that email. Then I'm gonna hand things over to an incredible one to kick it off, Dror with Exion. Dror is redefining the electric vehicle battery market. Dror, you have 5 minutes. Are you ready? Are you ready?
I am. I think I'm ready.
Okay, you can share your screen and we are live.
Let's share it. And okay, here it is. And here it is. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Dror from Exion, and we are here to really disrupt the energy storage market from vehicles to stationary applications. To start with, we developed Energize and Go, which is a new category of energy storage devices. Energize and Go was invented by Dr. David Malka in search of a more intuitive EV usability. Energize and Go improves fleet availability by 250% and doubles the platform lifetime. After more than 30,000 charging cycles, it shows negligible degradation, unlike in lithium-ion batteries, where they degrade rapidly in just few hundred cycles. And last but not least, it is a safe technology, green, recyclable, and the cost is expected to be about 30% of current alternatives, i.e. current lithium-ion batteries cost. What we did, we just moved the spotlight to a different setup of a device, from a lithium-ion battery setup where ions need to travel inside a solid-state material into a capacitor-like setup where the storage is being created on the surface of the electrode. This way, we could work on different materials to enhance the energy density and the stability, and create Energize and Go, which is a single device with high energy density and high power density, i.e. it is, what is this? I have some error message. You see my slide still?
Yeah, we see your slides. You're good.
Okay, so Energize and Go has energy density close to lithium-ion LFP with power density very close to supercapacitor. Means that it's a single device for acceleration, regeneration, and cruising. Now, how it is possible? We have a unique process to enhance carbon electrodes with specific organic molecules that really create a different bed for energy storage on the surface of the carbon. With this, we could, when we could load it 10 times more than any known technology to date, we could achieve the level of lithium-ion LFP power density and sustain the power density of a supercapacitor.
2-minute warning.
Okay, now the technology is valid for lots of different applications in a very, very large market of $18.3 billion. You can see here transportation, light mobility, EVs, and stationary storage. I don't want to dwell too much on that. The status is that we are on our way to develop the semi-industrial cell with 3.8 watt-hour, which is a standard cell in lithium-ion world. We have Johnson Matthey and EDF already signed to be our partners, development partners, and KTM is a pilot partner. KTM is an Austrian performance bicycle vendor. The milestones are to reach the beta sampler and the semi-industrial cell within 12 months, then develop the battery packages and move into the pilots, one in stationary and two in light mobility and finish them within 24 months. Now, we are closing a round of $2 million led by Capital Nature. We have a co-investor, which is ESIL. We are looking for $700K to close the round. We are very well positioned with Horizon Clean Deal grant, which we have 4 out of 4 votes from the evaluators. The use of proceeds you can see here. And this is about it. Thank you very much. And please feel free to reach out.
Perfect timing.
Thank you.
Perfect timing. Thank you so much for the pitch, Dror. I want to hand things over to our investor panelists, and then I will have some questions for you as well at the end. Daniel, Michael, would love to hear your thoughts on what they're doing and what questions you have for Dror.
Yeah, you want to go ahead, Daniel?
Sure. Hey, Dror, nice to see you again. I know we've talked, but you know what? One thing I keep thinking about is how do you think about integrating with current technologies, OEMs, whoever you're selling to at the end of the day? How easy is that process to swap in your tech?
Okay. We are working with 2 leaders in this industry in order to penetrate the potential market. We are not going to tell Elon Musk, go dump everything you did until now and just change to our batteries. Our strategy is to enter the market with few major prospects in the light mobility, in the fleet operators, and in the stationary market, establish ourselves as a viable solution with proven deliverables in the field, and then move up the value chain into the heavier EVs. The concept is to penetrate the market at the levels where the regulations are less strict and everything, where you can enter the market easily, and where the price point will make the change dramatically to the applications. I would add, if I may, one thing. We are planning to retain the IP by developing the enhanced carbon electrodes and set up joint ventures with supercapacitors and batteries manufacturers to assemble the cells in the different territories. So we are not going to build this large setups for building the batteries where the industry is there already.
Got it. Something I think a lot about with businesses like yours that have long potential timeframes to kind of getting to profitability is, are there kind of, do you have an incremental plan, or are there incremental ways for you to have revenue generating activities? So is it possible to kind of stage out what you're doing, and what are the timelines associated with those stages? I'd love to hear more about.
Okay, this reflects together with the plan, with the market penetration plan, and the reason why we're going to penetrate the market with the lighter mobility and stationary market is that we can make revenues within 2.5 to 3 years already from now. I mean, once we finish the pilots, all these pilot partners are looking to sign commercial deals with us once the pilot is successful. And with few millions of batteries that we will sell along the from year 3 to year 5, we can become already almost profitable, or at least break even within 5 years. And then moving forward, the model is to replicate this with partners who will build the batteries, and we will share revenue, and then they will help us to go to the larger market.
How have you seen the major supply chain challenges in the world affecting your ability to sell and get pilots?
That's another great point here, because I didn't have enough time to talk about all the benefits here. But since this concept can be shipped by air, okay? Why? Because it can be discharged and charged at the destination, okay? That's a major advantage to the upcoming limitations in supply chain. If you see kind of this ship with lots of Tesla burning out, this cannot happen without batteries, by the way. So the whole supply chain consideration, availability, and ease of shipment is going to be, I would say, change as well. The whole concept is going to change with the availability of different ways to ship this product to the destinations.
Great. I'd love to hear a little bit more about your team. I think you spent your time telling us about the technology, which is really exciting. But tell me more about the folks you're working with.
Okay. 2 key members of the team are Professor Doron Orbach, who is the lead professor in the electrochemistry, he is now retired. He was the lead professor in the electrochemistry department of Bar Ilan. He was leading the project of Dr. David Malka, our key founder. And the whole thing, by the way, today we just got another support letter from Elbit, one of the defense manufacturers in Israel, that the whole project started with their request to do something with supercapacitors that they will be able to retain more energy. At the time that the invention was broken out by David Malka, they were seizing out the project. So the trigger was, let's make supercapacitor being able to retain the energy for longer time. But the result was that not only it was retaining energy for longer time, it could retain energy very close to LFP. And this team worked together with Elbit for about a year before they ended their project. And apparently, just last week, we finished a very detailed due diligence by the team and the CEO of that company that assured us again that our plans, our team is set up properly for the goal. And myself, I joined the team as the electrical engineer. I'm covering all the fronts of the BMS and other stuff that is needed, and also understanding how to really productize finally the battery pack. Battery is one thing, battery pack is a different thing. So that's the story of the team. Hope it wasn't too long.
No, that's great. Thank you.
Any other questions from your side, Daniel or Michael?
Not for me.
Not for me.
Not for me either. Then Dror, thank you so much for presenting. And now we're gonna move on now. So we've done energy technology so far. How about we go to the opposite end of the spectrum and we go with a little bit of farming. We'll keep it in Israel. Elad and DriftSense, you are up.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you so much. I can share my screen, right?
Yeah, just let me turn the spotlight on for you, and then you should be able to share your screen and be golden.
Perfect. Just one sec.
Just say when you're ready to go.
Yeah, you can see my screen, right?
Go for it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, friends. I'm humbled and privileged to be here today. My name is Elad Segal. I'm the CEO and co-founder of DriftSense, and let me take you into my world for 5 minutes or less, hopefully. The problem that we tackle is that $12 billion drift away from growers' pockets each and every year in the US alone. And we ask ourselves why. And the reason for that is that 75% of these pesticide agrochemicals that they're spraying are actually lost. They're not reaching their target. And this causes two huge problems. One, out of the 12, this $8 billion loss is due to yield, not loss of yield due to pests, but loss due to pesticide. Growers are usually spraying less or more than what is needed. So if they spray less, it's quite obvious they need to iterate back into the field, spray more, they're losing time, money, and resources. But the problem here is that they're spraying much more than what is needed. It's exactly as you're going to your pharmacist or your physician and he's telling you, hey, take these antibiotics for 5 days, not less, not more, because they understand that the bacteria will develop resistance. And this is in the exact same analogy to pesticide and pests. The other problem is the legal side, regulatory side. Growers need to be compliant, they need to be in good agricultural practices, and they have a lot of burden in regulatory. Just to get a hunch, if growers in California spent 12 years ago $130, $150 per acre on regulation, today they spend almost $1,000 per acre. That's insane. Take a look at this map on the Midwest in the US. Every number that we see here is actually a damaged crop, in this case, soybeans. This is a publication that went out around a year and a half ago from phytopathologists and weed scientists in Missouri and Ohio State University. Every number is damages to crops due to pesticide drift or inaccurate spraying. I want to show you the numbers. More than 2,700 cases only in 1 year by one herbicide, and 4 million acres of soybeans were damaged. And that's not the whole story. So if I'm a grower, say in Indiana or Michigan, and I grow soybeans, and I got hit only once in a year, in only one case, I'm in a debt of $700,000 per this case. That's insane. This is a Jenga tower, and each one of these bricks, if you take it out, the whole tower obviously collapses, right? So this is what growers see in front of their eyes each and every time that they need to spray. What will you take out? Is it the pesticide and their physiochemical properties, the spraying gear, the regulations, the weather? They can't, right? So that is why for the first time, we are distilling one crucial decision, timing, telling them in a very optimal and most concise way when they need to spray to be very, very optimal, spray less and grow more. So just to get a hunch on what exactly do we do. So the input, as you probably already know, these are exactly these ones. We are analyzing and extracting and analyzing per plot meteorology in a very high resolution, but that's not all. It's not just about the weather. We are extracting and analyzing the chemical properties of the materials that they're using, the regulatory data and the labels, and of course the spraying gear. Why? Because there isn't in this world two growers whatsoever. There are identical. And this is exactly how we should tackle this problem. These data, big data, and all of the information, it funnel into two proprietary segments of technology that we're developing. One, dispersion models. What happens to the material from the moment it is out of the nozzle and until it should hit the target? And these insights go back into machine learning algorithms because, again, at the end of the day, say we're all the same growers doing the exact same things, but I'm spraying with a drone and you guys spray with a boom tractor or a crop duster, it is different by tens of percentages one from another. And this is the way one should take a look at. At the end of the day, our growers are getting a SaaS or a TaaS, we like to call it, timing as a service, very lean, without any hardware, software only. What is the best timing for them to spray? They're saving money, time, resources, and of course, making this world greener. We are the right team to tackle this problem. I hold a PhD in chemistry and material science from Bar-Ilan University. Our CTO, Dr. Pavel Kunin, holds a PhD from Tel Aviv University in geophysics and atmospherical sciences. And our chief operational, Dr. Ran Shaoli, holds a PhD in political science and was the chief advisor for the head of the Israeli plant protection and inspection services. If you'd wish, we are a trio of chemistry, environmental regulations, and atmospherical science. We have validated this idea with more than 200
time's up. Sorry.
Yes. Okay, I'll just go to the
almost the entirety.
I'm sorry. Yes.
No worries at all. That was a great pitch. Thanks for kicking it off and sharing a little bit more. Daniel, Michael, do you guys have questions for Elad and DriftSense?
So the slide that you were going to talk about next with the 200 plus, I'd actually like to hear what you were going to say with that slide.
Sure. So we started from Anbog Ventures here in Barnard University, and they told us, don't write a single line of code. Go talk to the people that are boots on the ground, and they have the knowledge for you to understand what is exactly the problems that you're tackling, right? Nobody wants to build a solution in the garage and find out after a lot of time and money it fits no one. This is exactly what we've done. We went to California and the Midwest. We were there like a month and a half, and ever since we met more than 200 stakeholders, including growers, academia, regulators, the Californian EPA, Department of Pesticide Regulation, the big agrochemical companies, vineyard managers, and so on and so forth. We were in UCLA, in Davis, in Berkeley. We've talked to anyone that we could to try to understand and tackle this problem of pest management. It's a huge problem in agriculture, and we wanted to make sure that we're coming to suck up all this knowledge, understand what is the problem, boots on the ground for the growers.
Speaking of boots on the ground, what's your go-to-market strategy? How do you get this in the hands of growers, and how do you scale this quickly? Ag tech is usually incredibly slow.
Correct. So that's a great question. So we cannot, obviously, and it's not scalable to go knocking on doors. So the supply chain agriculture is quite large, I would say. So we start with the growers, go upper in contractors, pest control advisors, certified crop advisors, and you go up in the scale to the agrochemical companies. So we're in the midstream. We are talking to advisors with PCA, CCA, so to speak, spraying contractors, and this is how you can scale very fast. And we have nothing to deploy. We're not doing hardware, we're doing software. It is coming from a very, I would say, scientifical based background of, it's not just binary, right? It's not just software. We're understanding the physical properties of movement of materials, of particles. I would say another word on that, Matt. So if you want to get a moisture or you want to get the weather, great, you can put a sensor in the ground. If you want to understand and predict and simulate how exactly for a certain situation, this movement of particles goes away, this is something that it's more into the software and the simulation, deep technology of which is atmospherical based, but also including the phenological state, including the machinery of which the nozzle and, so to speak, the materials go out from. So this is this on this point of view, go to market is we are going to vineyard. This is the high risk wine grapes, high risk, high yield crop. It means that it takes quite a lot of a time until you get to harvest. And each and every acre is a lot of money. That's quite of a big revenue and margins for the growers. And on the other side, if it's sprayed or treated inaccurately by pesticide and agrochemicals, that's it. It's getting hurt, it dies, and you need to replant after years. You're losing your job.
Thanks for that. Daniel, Michael?
I'd love to hear a little bit more about how you originally honed in on this as the problem you and your team wanted to solve. Like what brought you to target this particular problem and feel so passionate about it that you wanted to start a company?
That's a great question. So I'm a chemist. I'm the CEO and co-founder of the company, but I'm a chemist. And during my research years here in Bar-Ilan as a master, as a PhD, I always like, visualizing, taking it into the, so to speak, the big world, right? Not just keeping the benefits that we're doing in the laboratory, in vitro, taking it and helping the people out there. And I met my partners, Ron and Pavel, of course, and we tried to understand what's the deal with drift? What's the deal with pesticide when they spray them? And we started here in Israel, and then we went to the US, and we understood that this is a global problem, that a lot of the material is being lost, and growers cannot afford anytime soon, but it's already starting now, to spray more and more and more. That's, by the way, also the same vision that agrochemical companies have. It's not just that they want to sell until infinity. They understand that there's a lot of pests, either if it's herbs, either if it's rodents and fungicides, that are already starting to develop resistance. And we have nothing almost in hand that we can try and overcome this. And that's a huge problem for the whole supply chain, specifically in agriculture, specifically as we need to feed the world by 2030. And we can't. We just can't.
Got it. Awesome.
So Elad, so this is a software-only solution, you mentioned?
Correct.
So there are different ways to deliver these sprays to the crops. Do you account for these different methods and methodologies within your software?
Absolutely. So we're quite agnostic. It means that if you're spraying from a drone, from a crop duster, or from a boom sprayer on the ground, we can do this. We are able to do this. We have, I would say there's around 25 to 30 parameters that are being inserted into our proprietary algorithms. And that's a very good question. By the way, most of the growers are not understanding, or they have no scope to understand, unfortunately, that if you're spraying, let's say that me and you, Daniel, we're the same growers, right? We're using the same materials. We're living in the same region. We're both, we're growing carrots, so to speak. But I'm using a drone with 6 rotors, and you using same drone, but only with 2. The turbulence and the atmospherical outcomes of what I am spraying in you, these might be tens of percentages in differences. And this is a pure scientifical based peer review that we already know and took into account. So the answer is definitely yes. This is one of the, I would say, the most crucial parameters to understand how you're spraying with, what's your gear.
And I guess off of that, is the problem at the end of the day those variations in how close these devices get to the plants? Because my understanding, I did air dispersion analysis for a while, is if you have a certain area, there's a percentage likelihood it will hit the designated area versus land on the ground. So I'm guessing the issue is people today just aren't getting close enough given the meteorological conditions.
Just to make just for me to understand clear. So you're asking about our residential areas, or if the grower is hitting,
like specifically, like what the problem is today. Like, is it that the grower is not physically spraying the plants close enough?
Yes, so not quite. So there are specific practices that growers are using. Of course, it depended on the crop and type of gear, but it's not due to that. It's due to all these factors coming together that it's, I would say they are entangled one to another. So let's say that the weather is good and you're spraying in the correct height and you know your tank and your materials and everything, but 1 or 2 or maybe 3 of the parameters you're not taking into account. Say you have some kind of atmospherical problem. Say that your pressure in the spraying tank is not the exact one that should be, and so on and so forth. And each one of them eliminates a good outcome for your spraying. I'll give you another example. So say that you have a drone. These are very or wide of accurate when you're spraying. The problem might be, for instance, and we got approached by drone or spraying drones companies here in Israel and in the US, is that say that you're spraying 30 centimeters or half a meter on the upper point or down, right? From what you need to, it might be 15 to 20% of loss. And these are the most accurate gear that we have today.
Thanks.
My pleasure.
One last question before we move on, Elad. How often are growers spraying? How often do they do this? How many times per season?
Wow, that's a huge. I'll try to be specific. So if we're talking about vineyards, it's also dependent if you're in the northern or southern hemisphere. I would say vineyards around 12 to 15 sprays per season. Season might be 5-6 months, maybe more in less humid regions. But tomatoes for industry for the whole season, every week. Potatoes, maybe 20 times a season. So our go-to-market again is vineyards, wine grapes, specialty crops specifically where the most acute problem with pest management and pesticides is there. But it's very crop and region dependent. But they all suffer one huge problem, the loss of pesticides.
Actually, one more question before we move on. Have you done kind of a cost benefit analysis from the perspective of your buyer to try to help them understand, what money they can save or additional money they can generate when, having higher yields as a result of using your product?
Yes, correct. So a lot of agtech startups saying we increase yield, we maximize yield. That's quite of a tricky thing to say. You need to be, boots on the ground for a few years to try to say that. So we're not saying we're maximizing yield. That would be a mistake. We are protecting your yield. So this is one of the niches that we're improving the PBT or, the income of a grower. This is one. Second is we are saving on materials. So it's an average of 30% and more. We've done a successful proof of concept in agriculture environment here in Israel, eight case studies in the US. So one is, of course, protecting the yield. Second is saving on materials and, of course, labor. That's a lot of money. And the third one is regulatory liabilities. All the burden of regulation, we take it off the heads of growers. That's a lot of things you need to do. In California, you need to deliver all the documentation before and after you're spraying. And this is not just in California. There are a lot of regulations in Europe as well. Also in the Midwest, everything should be documented. And that's a lot of a burden to try and digitize everything for a grower. And this is exactly one of the features. This is what we do.
Great, thank you.
Awesome, thanks, Elad. Then we'll take things from the food and the growers, and we'll bring it into the restaurants with blanking on the name, Argo AI, helping to eliminate waste in restaurants and help restaurants also increase margins a little bit by having a little bit more upsells and optimization. I will line Andrea up, and while Andrea is getting everything ready, I will take this time to tell you guys a little bit more about the Startup Tank. So if you haven't checked this out already, thestartuptank.com for more details. We feature the world's most interesting and most kind of mission positive impact, sustainability, climate focused companies, early pre-seed, seed, and occasionally Series A. We've got a great Series A one coming up for you soon. To get them more exposure in front of great investors like this, founders need funding to change the world, and these type of companies are the ones that change the world for the better. If you're interested in investing in companies that move the world forward, change the world for the better, we run a syndicate, Forward.vc, that's presenting this, as well as C3 with Daniel and Michael. They'll tell you a little bit more information about that. And today's episode is brought to you guys by Leva. If you need to set up an SPV, you've got to run a special purpose vehicle, i.e. set up a syndicate or invest in something as a group. Fastest, easiest, cheapest way to do that is definitely Leva. You can set up in 5 minutes. You can create a digital SPV, which means you can do secondaries, follow on. It simplifies the process and gets rid of the lawyers and paperwork. Forwardvc.leva, forward.vc/leva for more details. But now we're going to hand it over to Andrea, who's going to tell us a little bit more about fixing the broken food industry.
Hello, Matt. Thanks for this. Let me just share my screen. I think you see my screen, but just confirm it.
You are good to go. Let me know and I'll hit the stop clock.
Okay, cool. So we can start. So I'm Andrea Torassa. I'm CEO and co-founder of Argo. What is Argo? Argo is our AI SaaS solution for the hospitality industry and restaurants chain that in real time adapts menus, prices, promotions, and the supply process to maximize revenues, reduce cost, and reduce food waste. Where did we start from? We started from this major problem that are like 150 million tons of food wasted in the US and Europe alone every year, which is, just to give an example, equal to the Empire State Building just 100 times every year. So this is where we start from. And in addition to this, we also had the big problem this year of the food cost increase of 36% year over year with everything that's going on with Ukraine after COVID situation and so on. And also in terms of restaurants, an erosion of the operating margin, also due to the third-party services like delivery apps that can eat up to 30% of the restaurant's profit. So here, what we're trying to do is to help the hospitality world in achieving becoming more sustainable in terms of sustainable communities, responsible consumption, but as well, we're also looking at the financial side of it. So trying to increase the profitability of restaurant chain and the hospitality world. Just to explain a little bit what is Argo, today restaurants are basically, to summarize, companies that usually have fixed menus. They have a lot of data, but they have a very limited use of it. And therefore, the customer experience is usually quite standard. What we're trying to achieve with Argo is an increase of revenue that we obtained approximately 20% with our pilot in Italy, a reduced food waste, which was up to 30% with our client, and the personalized experience together with the personalized upsell and cross-sell. A little bit of who we are to explain you how we got to this point. It's myself and Emilio, the co-founders of the company. We started working together almost more than 10 years ago, actually, for Carnival Corporation. We've been living together. We also managed a data consulting company, and we have, let me say, a strong experience both in hospitality and data analytics. And this kind of led us to create Argo because we saw an opportunity within an industry with a lot of data, but a limited use of it. Currently, there are 6 people working full-time in Argo, and we developed the tool end-to-end. Our clients, as I mentioned, are mostly restaurant chains, virtual restaurants, and hotels with restaurants as well. So we go across all the hospitality industry, which is a big market. I mean, I don't need to say a lot of this on this slide. Our revenue model is basically on per branch per month. We established this amount of 1,000 euros because it's a limited cost for each restaurant. It's easy to calculate for us, and it also applies to all business sizes. Where we are, we have done and completed a 2nd generation working prototype. We have a paying customer in Italy with 9 food brands, and we got some funding from the Italian government, approximately 350K. We are in the process of approving 2 different patents in Europe. What is our short-term goal? This is a photo of Tel Aviv because we are also based in Israel at the moment. We're trying to get funding for 2 million euros to use mostly in the tech and data science part and 40% of marketing and sales. And we're also currently looking for a pilot with a medium chain to improve the market fit. So we're looking for somebody a little bit bigger than our client to do so, as well as business connection to accelerate the market penetration. And I think that's it. This is our contact, and it should be slightly less than 5 minutes. So if you have any question.
Very well done with 15 seconds to spare. 15 seconds to spare. Let me bring back Daniel and Michael. And Michael, do you want to kick it off? Do you have any questions for Andrea?
Yeah, I guess I would also love to hear from you, Andrea, kind of more about the founding story about, of why you decided to tackle this particular problem, and more about the team that you are tackling it with.
So we have a background in building, forecasting, and revenue optimization systems in the hospitality, mostly in the tourism industry. Both my business partner and I, we've done this in different places around the world, and our work has always been to take the best out of data and optimize revenues out of it. Therefore, we saw an opportunity because there are really a lot of data in the restaurant world, but it's very hard to find companies that use them in a dynamic way to also improve the customer experience. And that's where we started, basically. In terms of team, we are 6 people, so there's the 2 of us with a little bit more of a business background, even though my business partner has also is more focused on the product development as well, while the rest of the team is really just product development. So we have a couple of engineers and a data scientist working on the algorithm and improving the tech scalability of the tool.
Great, thank you.
So I'm curious, exactly how are you increasing revenues and decreasing costs?
Yeah, so basically we act on 2 different parts. One are the menus and promotions. So for each, imagine you are a chain of restaurant with different location across the country or different location across the city. Your customer will be different based on the time of the day. So on Tuesday lunch, it's different from Friday evening, and also based on the location. So your market will be completely different. We take the data, we take the sales data, and we also take external data, the weather, events, market preferences. So we try to scrape a lot of data about our customer and their cities. We put this together, and first of all, we try to create a forecast for each restaurant and each time of the week. We create a forecast for each dish, and we tell the restaurant, look, for this day in this location, this should be your menu made up of these 5, 10, 15 dishes, and this should be the pricing. What we also do instead for the cost side is that we take the supply data, we take the inventory data in real time. So every time there is a sale, we reduce the inventory accordingly. And we tell the restaurant, look, you bought too much meat, it's going to expire tomorrow, so you should make a promotion for the burgers today, push it out to your customer on your app or whatever you have, and use this pricing. So at least you don't lose this money and the food doesn't go to the trash.
Thanks.
I mean, it sounds awesome. So you said you've been working with a pilot customer now. Could you share a little more details in terms of how long that's been, what the volumes were, so we know what those percentages increases are based off of?
Yeah, so our customer is a chain of virtual restaurants, means they have a restaurant that just exists on the delivery apps. They don't have physical seating. But they have 9 brands. They've been operating for a couple of years, and their goal was to scale up. So they need to digitalize everything, and they were doing a lot of stuff manually, both on the inventory and the pricing. What we did for them was really a full implementation of everything. We kind of built also an ERP for them, and we implemented this a couple of months ago, and we started to, we made basically to check the percentage. We made some A/B testing with what they did before, same year, same period previous year. We are tracking everything they're doing in terms of purchase of food, labor cost, and so on. And we're also tracking daily their sales through their apps. So in fact, all the data go through our systems. They have a dashboard that we feed on a daily basis, and they have some reporting that we generate for them.
Do you take the data from multiple chains to update or to optimize pricing for other restaurants? So you've got 20 different restaurants in San Francisco, and you can see supply and demand from different places. Do you own the data, or do the customers own the data?
The customer owns the data. There are some data that we scrape and we identify internally, which we own, but most of the data that we are using for the algorithm is internal. Then, if we target San Francisco, we want to track all the events that are in town, sport and so on, which will affect consumer demand as well as the weather. It rains a lot of delivery, this kind of stuff. These are data that we scrape centrally, but supply and all the sales, it's all data that remains in customers' hands.
Daniel, Michael?
Yeah, I have one more question. I'd love to just hear more detail from you on your strategy in terms of go-to-market and scaling, right? I think that for me, I am curious if there are network effects or ways in which you could plausibly reach scale quickly in what I think of generally as a pretty fractured market.
Well, I mean, let me start saying that we mostly target chains, so because there's going to be much more value for them. I mean, we can deliver value to any single restaurant, but of course, the bigger it is, the bigger the benefit we can bring. So for those, we're trying to target them in sort of an individual basis, and then scale up in terms of extending the geography and extending potentially internationally. What we're also trying to do is to get in contact, get partnership with payment systems, ERP systems, and food delivery apps, which have a large customer base and on which we can, in a way, integrate because they have the data that we are actually using for our algorithm, but they can also give us some access to the market.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Daniel or Michael, anything else? Then Andrea, thanks so much for sharing Argo AI. It's time for us to hand it over to our next.
Thanks a lot.
And now we will hand things over to Sylvan. Sylvan's here with NeoCarbon. They're working on carbon capture to save our planet, so to speak. I will get Sylvan all lined up. And then you let me know when you're ready, Sylvan, and you should be good to go.
Super. Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Super. So let me just share my screen and I'll be able to start. Cool. Then I'll get started. So hi, everybody. I'm really happy that I get to pitch at the Startup Tank. And we're NeoCarbon, and we capture carbon at scale with cooling towers. So basically today, we're emitting over 51 billion tons of CO2 per year. That's the equivalent of one Great Pyramid of Giza every hour of every day. So obviously, there's drastic consequences from this. And for example, the IPCC, so the UN body for climate control, estimates that at this point, on top of immediate drastic emission reduction, we also will need to remove 10 to 20 billion tons of CO2 per year before 2050 to avoid irreversible catastrophic climate change. That's not good. And the problem on top of this is that right now, the only scalable technology to do this is called direct air capture. So that's the actual technology to bring CO2 back directly from the atmosphere, from the air. But it's too expensive at 1,000 euros per ton today. So let's take a look quickly at why is it so expensive and how does it work? So basically, it works in 2 steps. First, you have the kind of capture part called adsorption, when you need to blow an enormous amount of air on your capture unit. And the reason why you need that much air is because there's only a tiny fraction of CO2 in the air. It's about 0.04%. So to capture a significant amount of CO2, you need very, very large fans that are very costly to build and of course costly to run. And once you saturate your capture unit, you divert your airflow somewhere else, and then you have to use enormous amount of heat this time to actually release that CO2 you just captured in a pure stream that you can use somewhere else or sequestrate. And at NeoCarbon, we realized that there's already millions of machines around the world that have very similar functionality. They're called cooling towers. So here are examples. And basically, they're used in virtually every industry to cool down things. And for that, they have enormous fans that blow a lot of air to cool down things. So in the perspective of why is it good for direct air capture? Well, we can use those fans and that airflow to take the CO2 out while you're at it. So we don't have to build any fan, and the fan is already running, so we don't have to pay anything for it. So it's already a pretty drastic cut of costs, both on CapEx and OpEx. And then, of course, as the name implies, they're blowing out heat. So there's a lot of available waste heat that we can use to actually also drastically reduce the cost of the concentration step here. And on top of all this, those cooling towers are present in industrial areas where a lot of industries are currently buying CO2 to use as an input in their processes. And right now, with the rising prices of oil, transport, which is a big cut of the cost of CO2, is going up as well. So by producing on site, we also have this kind of OpEx cut on top of everything else. So to recap, cooling towers can perform direct air capture using their existing airflow and inherent waste heat very cheaply. And they're also very scalable because they're used, as mentioned, in virtually every industry. So in EU alone, there's over 3,000 towers that, if we retrofit them all, could capture over 1 billion tons of CO2 per year. That's 10% of our targets. That's quite huge. And at scale, by using this retrofitting approach and leveraging all these untapped resources, we can actually have a 10 times more cost-effective direct air capture process at around 100 euros per ton. The market is in fact enormous. So if you do the math, with a very low price of 100 euros per ton and the 10 billions of ton, that's the lowest estimate of what we need to achieve before 2050 at this point. It's very optimistic as well, if you ask me. You're already at 1 trillion euros per year. In EU alone, with our estimate of 300,000 larger cooling towers, that's, as mentioned, 1 billion tons that can be captured. And just retrofitting 10% of this market would enable NeoCarbon to have a 10 billion euros per year revenue. We're today building our MVP. So we incorporated in January 2022 with some funding from the VC fund OnPad. And we spent the next couple of months building our proof of concept and building the team. Then during the last couple of months, we've also validated demand by conducting numerous discussions with potential partners and consumers. And some of these discussions have actually converted now to commercial pilot implementation discussions. So we are actually on the process of signing LOIs with some of the partners. And on a more internal product development timeline, we've also joined our hardware accelerator. So this will enable us to build our MVP by the end of summer. And all of this leading to our commercial pilot, the first commercial installation in Q1 2023. Our team is basically science experts and startup experts like myself and Rene, the two founders. We're both engineers with extensive startup experience. Rene has been the right hand of a CEO in his previous company, where he was leading a funding round over 50 million, or involved in the funding round over 50 million. And I've been leading my team for 5 years as CTO of my previous company, which I exited in 2019. Andrew is our head of R&D, and he has a PhD in carbon technology and also industry experience at Bilfinger. And Koji has been 5 years working at ExxonMobil in their cooling tower department. We are currently in our round. And yes, thank you very much. Looking forward to your questions.
Awesome. Thanks, Sylvain. Let me get the other investors on here, and then we can open things up. And while I'm getting them lined up, one of the first questions that I had for you is, so this $100 number is that's the market going rate for carbon capture currently, correct?
Well, I mean, let's say that's the target that everybody's trying to reach before 2050. So today, the actual price, the only player in the world that actually can do carbon capture is called Climeworks, and they have a capacity of around 4,000 tons per year, and their actual price is around 1,000 euros per ton. So our estimate with our technology is around 100 euros per ton, which is 10 times cheaper.
Okay. Are there any economies of scale here? For instance, Tesla had to build the expensive car to get to be able to build the cheap car at scale. Is this something where, as more players get into this and as more companies come online?
Yes, I mean, we have developed a pretty extensive what's called a techno-economical analysis, so TEA, that actually shows how our cost evolves. And of course, today we are not at 100 euros per ton. So there were a lot of parameters involved in this 100 euros per ton. There's of course first and foremost this leveraging of the waste heat and the capex cuts from the existing installations. So that's a big chunk. But of course, from our own economies of scale, our learning by doing, and of course the evolution of our sorbent. So we're also developing our proprietary IP to develop on the long term. So today we are at much closer to, like, let's say a few hundred euros per ton is our current cost estimates for the early versions, and then we'll go down to 100 euros per ton in the coming 2 or 3 years.
Is that the theoretical limit?
That is not the theoretical limit, but that's what we consider our conservative estimates, basically. Like you can find numbers from other startups. There's basically this market is enormous. So right now today it's empty. As globally, we can capture around 10,000 tons per year. And as mentioned, we have to go to 10 billion at least per year. So we have to scale the whole market by 1 million times, which means that it's a completely blue ocean. And of course, there's a lot of different ways to actually achieve and capture direct air capture. So our approach, we believe, is the best fitted for our team and presents unique advantages because there's also, for example, this CO2 utilization opportunity from the fact that it's in industrial areas. So you have like a lot of synergies with that we think makes it a lot more viable than other approaches. But in any case, the point is that there is basically, yes, a lot of different players doing this different approaches to direct air capture. And that's basically like how you get those prices. I think I got myself lost a little bit. Like, can you repeat just the exact question? I'll try to make a better answer.
What I was trying to figure out is, so the 1 trillion market is based off of the $100 price point. What I was trying to see is how far the theoretical limit is, because if you eventually got carbon capture down to 1,000th of a penny per ton, the total market is suddenly a very different scale.
No, okay, so no, I get your point. Yeah, so let's put it like this: that this 100 euros per ton, the problem is not could we get lower than this? Is are we ever going to get there? It's theoretically you can get lower than this, of course, because theoretically we can have very much unlimited supply of clean energy and things like this. But talking to, for example, one of our advisors that's very close connected to Climeworks, that leading player I mentioned before, he's actually pretty skeptical that these kind of numbers under 100 euros can happen anytime soon or ever, really. So that's what I was trying to say. Like, there's a lot of players out there and there's a lot of numbers, but one has to remember that the only player that actually has real life based number is Climeworks, and right now those numbers are 1,000 euros per ton, and they've been at it for quite many years. So of course there's a lot of things they're doing, in my opinion, wrong, but it's going to be quite the tough competition to get under the 100 euros per ton.
Okay, thanks for clarifying. Michael and Daniel?
Yeah, I'm curious if you have, opinions that you can share with us about the regulatory or lack of regulatory support for like a creation of a carbon credit market, and how you all think about whether or not you find that to be a risk factor or not for your business.
So I purposely avoided the whole carbon credit discussion because it's a very complicated one in its own, but very good question. The point is, on the long term, obviously, this utilization strategy we're talking about, that's not going to be what we want to achieve, because we want to be truly carbon negative. Otherwise, we're not getting anywhere, basically. So yes, eventually we're going to have to do into carbon credits. And the thing is, there is currently a lack of basically regulation, as you mentioned, for carbon removal credits, because it's such a new thing. Like there's basically until like a few years ago, or even let's say right now, there's basically, again, no one that can provide those removal credits, technological removal credits. So right now, what you can have is you have offset credits. So for example, replacing a coal plant with solar panels or something like this. And those are obviously much less good quality credits, because in the end, you're not removing carbon from the atmosphere, which is what we need to do. We have basically used our carbon budget. And so since we cannot stop all emissions, if only because people leaving are emitting as well, we need to also remove all the time now. And that means that there's this kind of carbon removal credits are going to be much needed. And actually in the Science-Based Target Initiative, so this is when you hear companies saying like, yes, we're going to be net neutral by 2030 or 2040 or whatever, what they mean, they're typically aligning their targets with this initiative called the Science-Based Targets. And for those, basically, they also realize that, okay, a company that's producing some value cannot go to 0% emission. Like it can basically probably go to 90%. So they're going to ask you to go to 90%. And then the last 10%, you're going to be able to allowed to emit, continue to emit, but you're going to have to use carbon removal credits so that the total sum is actually zero. If you think about carbon offset, you have produced 1 ton of CO2 and you're offsetting it somewhere else. There's still 1 ton that went into the atmosphere. If you actually have 1 ton that's produced and then you remove 1 ton somewhere else, like then you're actually net is actually zero. So this is why the carbon removal credits will be in very, very high demand by the late 20s and onwards. Yes, because the Science Target Initiative typical net zero targets start in 2030. So that's kind of like we're in the transition period right now.
Got it. Great, thank you. I think that's really helpful. I think. Oh, I'm sorry. Please go ahead, Daniel. I'll go after you.
Just one quick question on my side. How easy is it for you to retrofit cooling towers?
So that's the interesting thing. We're obviously at this point discussing with like our go-to-market strategy these days is basically signing partnership with cooling tower manufacturers. So this means that we get access to their customer base. So typically, if you're an industry and you have a cooling tower, you're basically getting that from a manufacturer, and they take care of like maintaining it over the lifetime. So that can be 20, 30, 40 years. And so these cooling tower manufacturers, they have ongoing on-site relationship with their customers, which means that they, first of all, can get us access to those customers and let us install our machines by basically facilitating the communication with those customers. And then basically they also know and have access to their cooling towers all the time. So the way we see this is that we've designed our product to be as least impactful on the cooling tower as possible. As basically it's plug and play system when you redirect the airflow of the tower into our unit. And then we basically add a couple tubes to get the hot water, so the heat to be evacuated, we take it through our system. So it's very minor kind of adjustment. It's very transparent to the cooling tower. So also if there's a fail-safe mechanism that if something goes wrong, we can basically make our whole system completely transparent. So it basically is completely downstream of the cooling tower and doesn't modify it too much, or at all. So it doesn't modify at all, and it's not too much effort to install it anyways. Yeah, and that's basically it. And then talking to cooling tower manufacturers, we also are actually talking about partnering up on the actual connection from the cooling tower to our units, that they could take care of this, because of course they know their cooling tower specs much better than we do, and it's not the core part of what we do. Like we're focusing more on the, of course, capture unit and chemistry/mechanical engineering behind these units. So that could be also a way to facilitate the deployment.
Thanks. Go ahead, Michael.
I just wanted to ask about agreements with the large corporations that seem to be driving this market, right? Like the Stripes and Microsofts of the world. Mm-hmm. I would love to know a little bit more about any contact that you all have had with those potential buyers, and what, if any, details that you can share from those conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. So indeed, like right now, so that's even another step into the kind of carbon discussion. So on top of carbon offset and then carbon removal, right now, what most of the industry is actually going for is this kind of supporting the development of carbon removal. So everybody is aware, like, we have to scale this market 1 million times. Nobody has really fixed it yet. So you can't really even buy those carbon removal credits right now. So the bigger players, as you mentioned, for example, Stripe, that's been leading these efforts. What they do is they buy carbon credits, not to kind of offset or remove their own footprint, but just to support the development of companies such as ours, so that they can see that in the long run, they have the biggest impact possible. Their idea being that if I'm the first customer of a company like NeoCarbon, then I enable them to go to the next stage, and then they can scale their their removals. And by buying this early 1,000 tons, then actually I let them sell 100,000 tons in the whole history of their company. Basically, that's the way kind of things have been going. And there's, for example, this Frontier Fund with other big players like Microsoft and BCG and all of this, almost €1 billion has just been pledged a couple of months ago. And yeah, so from our side, we haven't applied yet to this kind of specifically the Stripe program or the Shopify program yet. We're a bit too early for this. We believe you basically need to be able to, I think from memory, promise 1,000 tons of removal already by a year or something like this. But what we have done is we've been in talk with different pre-procurement platforms. So the leader of those is Pure Earth. So basically what they do is, again, they match players that are not Stripe, but some other players that would like to do carbon removal with companies that will eventually sell carbon removal credits. So they do kind of similar thing, but they're the middleman in between those two supply and demand side of the market. And with those, we also have couple other platform we're talking to. One of them is from one of our advisors. He's also building his own launch pad for carbon removal. And we have an LOI with a third player. So what I can divulge from these arrangements is that the prices are in the several hundreds of euros per ton, closer to the thousands of euros per ton for removal. And for example, Puro, they accept pre-procurement until 10 years from now. So they're completely backlogged. They don't expect a direct air capture technology company to actually be able to deliver within a few years. As I mentioned, it's a very new market, but they're already pre-selling credits from a very long time ahead because there's just so much demand.
Great, thank you.
Daniel or Michael, anything else from you and C3? Awesome, then thanks for presenting, Sylvain. Thanks for what you're doing as well. It's everyone here. If you're here, it means you're doing something that matters. And that's a big deal, especially when you're this is your baby, you're putting 100% of your effort into it. You might as well do something that moves the world forward. Forward VC, that's the type of stuff we invested. Forward.vc, it's the number 4ward.vc. If you're interested in learning more and investing in companies just like this. Now I want to move on to another company who's doing some pretty interesting stuff. Neil Shaw with Purifire. And Neil is coming from the infamous Carbon 13 venture studio, incubator, accelerator type model. Neil, you are up. Are you ready to share Purifire?
I am. Thank you so much, Matt, for inviting us. Let me just pull up my presentation.
And then just again, for a recap for anyone tuning in, then at the end of this, after we've gone through, our panelists will sit down, we'll talk things over, and we'll choose our startup of the night. Now, on to Neil, you are ready. The clock is yours.
Great, thank you so much. So we're Purifire Labs, and we're a team of engineers and scientists that are building circular carbon solutions that would accelerate the transition to net zero. The one thing that we have aligned across our team is that we want to have scaled impact, and we believe that our technologies have the potential to remediate millions of tons of emissions over the coming decade. So we're focused on creating a portfolio of pressurized liquefaction technologies. So on one end, we have our plastic liquefaction technology called hydrothermal liquefaction. This is a technology that operates at 350 degrees Celsius and 150 bar pressure. And then at the other end, we have a CO2 liquefaction solution, a carbon capture solution that operates at negative 50 Celsius and 50 bar pressure. So far, we've been focused on developing the plastic liquefaction technology. We have already reached TRL level 5. We've got 2 patents on that, and now we're just putting the funding in place to then scale up the technology to TRLs level 7 or 8 and become revenue generating. What I do want to focus on for this conversation is around the CO2 liquefaction technology, the carbon capture technology, which already has 1 patent, a 2nd patent that we're working on, and we want to move from TRL level 3 to TRL 7 or 8. So very different from what Sylvain just presented at NeoCarbon, we're focused on trying to make industrial processes more sustainable. Steel, cement, shipping, fertilizers all have a significant carbon footprint, and we want to be able to apply our solution to be able to tackle these polluting industries and make them more sustainable. Our solution is a little bit different from most of the solutions that are out there in the market. We are able to not only capture CO2, but liquefy CO2 directly from flue gas streams without the use of any amines or solvents. We're using a cryogenic carbon capture system through sequential cooling and pressurization. And that allows us to take emissions from a flue stack and end up being captured in the liquefied form. The advantage of our technology is that unlike most of the competition that is focused on using amines or solvents or catalysts to be able to capture carbon, we're able to do this without the use of any catalysts or amines, reducing our operating costs. But more importantly, when it comes to scaling this technology up, we're able to do that because not only can we reduce the footprint of the actual cooling towers or capturing towers, but we're able to then go out there and apply very few moving parts to be able to do this. In terms of the market size and potential, about 19 or 6.2 billion tons of emissions came from industry alone. That figure is very, very similar for Europe, where about 20% of emissions came from polluting industries. In terms of TRL levels, we're currently at TRL level 3, where we've used a controlled experiment in the lab to be able to capture solidified CO2. We now have downstream LOIs with a local power company and a downstream, so on the upstream side with the local power company, and then on the downstream side for uses with an F&B and entertainment company in the UK. This will allow us to accelerate the development of this technology and the processes that go along with it and reach TRL level 6 and 7. So in terms of impact, what I do want to focus on is the scale of capture. For smaller systems and people that are focused on distributed systems, such as shipping and some startups that are focused on trucks, the scale of capture is very small, and the impact that they're able to have is via replicability. On the other hand, we want to focus on scalability, and we want to try and find larger applications of our system, therefore increasing the impact that we're able to have and increasing the amount of emissions that we're able to capture.
Time is up.
Oh, okay. So I'll just end up with that. But we're looking at about $1.5 million in seed funding. That's 1.9 million USD. And that would allow us to increase the readiness of our technology, reduce the engineering risk, and establish unit economics. So thank you for listening, and I will pause there for any questions you may have.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Neil. Daniel, Michael, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I'm curious, how easy is it for customers to integrate your solution or retrofit the technology that you're working on?
Yep. So it is something that is unique to every kind of industry. So whether it's steel, whether it's cement, there is a certain amount of front-end engineering design that we need to undertake. But we want to continue to focus with large industry players and large partners where we can use the same existing designs to be able to retrofit multiple systems onto multiple exhaust streams or multiple factories.
Are you focusing on one use case to start with, or is it the same core technology for the different applications?
Yeah, so we have an LOI signed at the moment with an anaerobic digestion plant, which then uses combined heat and power to pump electricity back into the grid. So that's our immediate focus to kick off with. But then we want to move on to other applications, the polluting industries that I mentioned, steel and cement in particular, which have a massive, massive carbon footprint.
It seems like you have two totally different businesses. Is that just me? It feels like you developed one and then decided to develop the carbon capture technology after.
Yes and no. So initially, we wanted to move from the HTL into a more vertically integrated solution where we could have gone from converting plastic back into oil and then maybe into clean electricity with some carbon capture. But as we looked deeper into the market, we realized that there were independent applications for both technologies. And while we're developing these technologies, we'd want to avoid vertically integrating them and keeping them as independent solutions that can have independent industry applications.
Do you need independent teams then? I feel like all of your skill sets, your sales, everything is going to be diverted when you have two different, very different focuses and technologies. It feels like two startups.
It's something that certainly may involve two different teams, but the core engineering team is pretty much the same because they're both pressurized liquefaction technologies. So maybe different sales processes and commercial teams, but the core engineering team, we think, would probably have the same skill sets and the same processes from being able to take products from design to conceptualization and then development and installation.
Okay, thanks for sharing. Daniel, Michael?
Neil, can you give us more information on traction so far? So, how far along are you in terms of development or deployment?
Yeah, so we're at TRL level 3 so far with this technology. We've got multiple conversations with various partners, but we've got 2 LOIs that are signed both on the upstream and downstream side, and we fit in nicely in between those upstream and downstream uses to be able to prove that we can do carbon capture in this way and do it in an energy efficient way that we can then scale and reduce costs with economies of scale.
Awesome, thank you.
Do you know the limit in terms of economies of scale or a rough idea of what you're shooting for price point wise?
Yes, I mean, ideally, from what we understand, that it's a little bit different from what Sylvain was saying around direct air capture. I think that the LCOC, the levelized cost of carbon, in various markets is anywhere between 100 and 200 USD. So we certainly want to try and reduce the levelized cost of carbon and try and bring it down under 100. But unlike most of the other solutions, we have very few operating expenses aside from the power. And so it's just really about trying to make this more efficient by regenerating or recycling the heat and the feedback loops that we can have to make the system more efficient.
Daniel or Michael, anything else on your side? You're muted, Michael.
Sorry about that. One last question for me is just, I would love to get a better sense from you, Neil, on unit economics to the degree that you know what they are.
Can you expand on what do you mean by unit economics?
Yeah. So help me understand how much you expect for it to cost to create kind of like an installation, and then the revenue that you all would generate from each installation, and the savings that a potential customer would realize.
Yeah. So I think it's a complicated answer, but I'm happy to take it offline, Michael, if you want to have a more detailed discussion around unit economics.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Well, then I think that's wraps it up with Purifier. And then we want to say thanks for coming on, Neil. Thanks for sharing. And we would hand things over to our last startup, but certainly not our least startup of the night, SolarMonkey. Great name coming to us out of the Netherlands, trying to fix the solar market. Jan Peter,
all right,
you are up.
Thank you so much, Matt. My name is Jan Peter. I'm the founder and CEO of SolarMonkey. And please give me a second and I'll share the screen with what I've got to share with you today. Right, so see my screen now, right?
Good to go.
Yes, good to go. So, my name is Jan Peter, founder and CEO at SolarMonkey. I founded SolarMonkey about 6 years ago. Before that, I was a strategy consultant in the UK. For education, I'm a background in mechanical engineering, sustainable energy technology. And previously, I also founded 2 companies. One exited through a sale, and one other has bled to debt. So I saw both sides of the coin, but still doing what I love to do, and that is being an entrepreneur in sustainable energy. So what we do at SolarMonkey is we accelerate the solar energy transition. And how we do that is by helping installers, solar PV installers, to work much more effectively by offering them software, their business process software, to do things much more effectively. And to fuel this mission, we are looking for a 5 million investment. And before diving into what we do exactly, please allow me to elaborate a little bit on the solar market. And as you might know, these markets are booming. Solar may well be the world's leading electricity supply by 2050. And we've seen a growth in installed solar capacity from 23 gigawatt peaks per year to 138 gigawatt peaks per year in less than 10 years' time. And the markets are expected to grow further to more than 250 gigawatt peaks per year by 2025, reaching a 200 billion euro market size. And we see an even faster surge with increasing gas prices, and also in Europe, an unfortunate war waging in Ukraine, so a larger demand for independent power. But in keeping up with this growing demand in solar energy, we see 3 bottlenecks. And first of all, the sales and quotation process is very inefficient. Take the traditional process where an installer has to visit a location, measure the roof dimensions, use their own calculation models, copy and paste things into a Word document and generate a quote from there. And it can take up to 5 hours on one single quote, and then take into account that you might have to send 5 quotes to close a single deal. After installation, there's very little aftercare. There are no service contracts in place, clients are often forgotten, and bad performing systems are left unnoticed. So a lot of solar energy potential is left unutilized, but also commercially, upsell and cross-sell opportunities are left unutilized by those installers. And thirdly, the supply chain is very untransparent, and there are many disruptions. There are very many fluctuating prices, and it's very hard to actually find out which materials are still available against which price, and it gives a lot of challenges for installers to follow up on. So at SolarMonkey, we deliver solutions to solve those problems. And the first one is our bread and butter. So it's the design and sales products. So it allows our installers to remotely design a solar panel system, calculate the yields, generate a quote. It's super easy to use. So I'm pretty sure I can teach any one of you watching within 30 minutes how to use the software, design a solar PV system, and generate a quote. Whilst under the bonnet, we have very advanced calculation algorithms that give very accurate results. So we optimize the workflow and we slash the acquisition cost with over 60%. Then what we're also working on is an aftercare product. So monitoring solar panel installations after installation, optimizing the yield, but also allowing the installer to keep in touch with their consumer to make sure they can upsell and cross-sell and earn money on much more than solar PV alone. And then finally is what we call marketplace opportunities. Already with 350,000 unique addresses, quotes going through our software, there's a huge opportunity to link it to other services like ordering your hardware, ordering installation teams, or perhaps adding financial products to it. And again, there's a big opportunity. So SolarMonkey forms one software platform that basically brings the different parts of the supply chain together. So in total, we are looking at an 8.4 billion market opportunity. We aim to focus first on the design and sales product in Europe with 975 million of ARR opportunity. And why we're doing that? Because on the design and sales product, there's the biggest pain. So we believe we can achieve high penetration. We are already the Dutch market leader, well on our way in Belgium and Spain, exploring the rest of Europe. And then as soon as we got a good mode, we wish to further expand to other opportunities like aftercare and marketplaces. So in terms of competition, you might well be aware of Aurora Solar, USA party, raising a whopping 475 million investment. And I look at it two ways. So on the one hand, I look at it as, well, perhaps a threat of a competitor with a lot of money in the market. At the same time, we see there's a lot of market share still left in Europe. We don't see them there yet, meaning that we have a lot of opportunity to become the Aurora Solar of Europe.
Time is up. I'm sorry, Jan-Peter.
Sorry. That was too...
No worries, no worries. Thank you for sharing. Let's bring our investor panelists back. Michael, Daniel. And do you want to tell us a little bit more about the raise real quick, Jan-Peter?
Yes, so we are raising 5 million at the moment, already in negotiations with a couple of investors. So looking to close pretty soon. But yeah, things are still open on the table. So if there are parties wishing to learn more, there's still opportunity to do so.
Great. You want to kick us off, Daniel?
Sure. Could you talk a little bit more about competitive landscape and how you're differentiating yourself?
Yes. So there are a couple of things that make SolarMonkey unique. First of all, I tapped upon the fact that we are super easy to use. And that is very important because most of our users, they're not engineers, they are generally salespeople, people who work in call centers. So it needs to be easy to onboard, easy to use, and still with accurate and consistent quality. That's what we deliver. Then secondly, what makes it super accurate is that we don't just work from aerial imagery. Like under the imagery, we use 3D models that do automated shading analysis, that calculate the tilts of a roof. So there's quite an advanced calculation algorithm underneath. And thirdly, what sets us apart is the fact that we don't just do the design and the sales process, but we also monitor systems after installation, which again gives us the right information to optimize the design product as well.
Awesome. Help us understand the kind of customer feedback in more detail that you've gotten so far, and the go-to-market strategy in a little bit more detail that you're planning moving forward.
So we currently have about 500 customers distributed across 3 countries. And the feedback mainly is that, well, on the good side, it's super easy to use. And we really hear that in the market. And in terms that we could do better is we could be a bit more elaborate in the amount of features that we use. So we can definitely still improve on that. But again, it's software, so we are continuously improving and creating a better product. But I think the core of what we wish to keep is that it should be to the point, simple and easy and super effective.
Great, thank you.
You mentioned before you scale, you wanted to establish a bit more traction in a moat. What is your moat? What is there? Is there some type of network effect or flywheel here?
So there is some sort of flywheel. First of all, the moat is more about a very strong operational lock-in, because we are really the core process of our clients. So they use our software for their sales process, to do the calculations, to generate the quote. It's integrated in their CRM and their ERP system. So the churn is pretty low. So it's around 1% per month, which is very low for a SaaS business. And then in terms of further expansion, well, what I mentioned is that there are other services that we can attach to the already existing platform. So in terms of strategy, we wish to first penetrate the market with the design and sales product, so be in the core processes of our clients, and then move on to adjacent services, increasing the revenue per account. So that's basically the flywheel as well. So 1 is increasing the number of clients. 2 is then after that increasing the revenue per client. And there's a third component, and that is that the markets are just going like crazy. Like the markets itself are growing, our existing clients are growing in volume. And when they grow in volume, we grow in revenue as well.
Great, thank you. Who do you think of as your biggest competitors?
So our biggest competitor that we see in Europe is also a Dutch company. It's called 2 Solar. I'd say they are our biggest competitor in Europe. I think in the longer term, maybe in 3 to 5 years time, I think we'll see Aurora Solar more often, or perhaps Open Solar coming from Australia. I think those will be key competitors.
Last question on my side. What does your business model look like?
So we charge, we have subscriptions with our clients. So it's quite a typical SaaS business, and it's a volume-based subscription model. We always compare it to a telephone bill. So we don't charge seats, we charge usage, and we charge the number of projects they do. So the number of addresses, because we're really tailored to high volume, small scale systems. And the more projects you commit to per month, the lower the price per project. If you stay under your bundle in a month, that's too bad, you don't get anything back. But if you go over, you pay a bit extra. So it's pretty similar to buying minutes with your telephone account.
I think my last question for you is, why are you doing this?
How do you mean, why am I doing it? Like personally or as a business?
Take that how you will.
Sorry, Ed?
Take that how you will.
Why am I doing this? Well, let me take this from personal passion then. So why am I doing this is first of all, why we started SolarMonkey is because we saw a couple of things. We saw a solar market that was really starting to thrive, that we had a lot of passion for, because I really think it's a key technology for sustainable energy. I love working in sustainable energy because it's the right way forward. I want to be part of the future and build towards the future. But at the same time, we saw that processes were pretty traditional and old-fashioned. And I think any business starts with the idea of, we can do this better. So we started a software product that can do it better, and very passionate about rolling it out and helping our clients to actually do better. Does that answer your question?
That does answer the question, and you answered it the right way, going for it from the personal side of things. I don't have any more questions. Michael, Daniel, to you.
Just to the degree that you're able to share, can you tell me kind of what your customer acquisition costs and are today, and how they relate to the lifetime value of your subscribers or your users?
So the customer acquisition cost, of course, varies per region, but on average, if you average everything out, it's about €1,500 per customer. The average annual revenue per account is €3,300. And well, seeing that the churn is 1% per month, that means a lifetime value of about 15 to 20K. Of course, always the duration is still a bit unsure because, well, we were only there for 6-7 years yet. But yeah, we estimate a lifetime of about 20K per client.
Great, thank you.
Then I think that wraps up. I think that wraps up the presentations and the question sections of this week's Startup Tank. Everybody who presented, Jan Peter, Andre, Dror, Elad, Neil, Sylvan, everything you guys are doing is incredible. Thanks for taking the time presenting. Now I want to turn things over to my fellow panelists, Michael, Daniel. I'd love to hear your thoughts on your favorite 1-2 startups of the night. Who are you most interested or excited in, and why? Do you wanna go first, Michael?
Sure. Well, I really, I think it's hard to compare people working in such wildly different realms. The approaches that people are taking and that we got to see today are so diverse that it's like comparing apples to oranges, right? But I think that, I really enjoyed the wonkiness of talking about direct air capture. And, specifically, I think I was excited about the potential of the work that Purifire is doing. I thought that was really interesting. I'm also, certainly excited about the scalability of software solutions for solar, like Jan's. And so I think those were probably my two that I was most interested by.
Interesting. And Daniel, who is your fruit of the night, so to speak, then? Apples and oranges?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. My background is also in chemical engineering, so I usually gravitate more towards those types of technologies. So, resonating with Michael, the carbon capture side is very interesting. I think if I had to choose between the two, I think NeoCarbon is probably a bit further along in terms of scalability. But Purifier is, very promising, assuming it progresses with technology readiness.
Yeah, I think that's certainly one takeaway. Is everybody here has something super promising. I found the carbon capture. I mean, it's obviously very exciting because it's a huge market, and I mean, we basically need to do that, or we're all going to kind of slowly die. So that's always a nice little plus there. I was pretty impressed, and we're pretty interested in as well with our syndicate with Exion and what they're doing with revolutionizing EV batteries. Dror didn't get into the whole thing in the presentation tonight, but what they're doing is pretty incredible. I liked Andreas as well, where just the reduction in food waste is a big game changer. And then increasing revenues. Generally, most companies that deal with restaurants these days are taking advantage of them for deliveries. So it's always nice for some money to go back to the little guy. But if I had to choose one, I would probably say NeoCarbon and Exion were my two favorites, but I'm also personally a little biased. So then do we have a consensus on number one or number two then? Or enough of a consensus to choose a one?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so from those, then would we say, is that NeoCarbon? Is it Purifier? Is it Solar Monkey? Who is it for you? If from everything we've heard.
I think it sounds like hearing you and Daniel say that you also found the carbon capture interesting and liked NeoCarbon's work. And for me, I also feel like carbon capture is certainly one of the most impactful areas of work that is in its infancy, right, and has so much potential. So I would go with NeoCarbon.
Okay, I can go with NeoCarbon as well. Daniel?
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed what NeoCarbon is working on.
Well then, Sylvan, congrats. Congrats for being our startup of the night, the June 6th climate edition of the Startup Tank. Yeah, everybody put your put the hands together for Sylvan. And
thank you very much. I'm not sure if you guys can hear me, but thank you. We are definitely appreciating this. It was really a pleasure to be able to pitch, and very appreciative of the questions as well. Happy to continue more discussions with you guys at any point as well. So thanks a lot, and definitely also very, very interesting discussions. Of course, I'm also biased. I was very interested about Purifier's presentation, but everybody else, I mean, as usual, climate tech companies are really, really excited. So good job, everybody, and very cool stuff.
Yeah, it's nice to see companies that are doing things that actually matter. Now I want to give each of our investor panelists just a chance to share a little bit more about yourself, what you guys are doing, where should people reach out to you. You want to go first, Daniel?
I went first at the beginning. I'll let Michael go first now.
Yeah, happy to. I imagine, obviously Daniel and I work together on a variety of different fronts. So there's certainly some overlap here. Our syndicate, you can find out more information about it at joinc3.co. And, I encourage both potential interested LPs or potential interested companies who are looking for investment to go there. You'll find relevant information for both. And then Daniel and I are working together on a rolling fund that is specifically looking at kind of frontier climate tech solutions. So more information on that can be found at exponentialimpact.xyz.
This is breaking news. Daniel, I hadn't heard about this rolling fund.
Lots of coals in the fire.
Daniel's a busy guy.
Daniel is a busy guy. Busy guy, where is the best place for people to find you?
I guess lots of places. But as Michael mentioned, we work together with C3 and Exponential Impact Rolling Fund. Online, you can find me, LinkedIn, obviously, and then the couple of newsletters that I started are readtheimpact.com and innovateclimate.com, which are newsletters to help startups, generally speaking, get visibility, help tell your story, and get in front of the ecosystem, more broadly speaking. Everything I'm trying to work on is really trying to help startups connect with the right folks in this space.
And I can definitely recommend both of those as great subscribes. Daniel Cruzier, I'm going to say it wrong again anyways. That's it.
Close enough.
I apologize. Guys, thank you for coming on and sharing. Now, for us, of course, we've got to throw in our little pitch plug at the end. This is the Startup Tank. If you want to learn more about us and what we do, thestartuptank.com for more details and to apply. And this is all presented by Forward VC's syndicate. So forward.vc. We invest in companies that move the world forward. If you want to join our syndicate and invest in companies like this and other, we've got some deals we're doing, some deals we're looking at, forward.vc. And everything here has been sponsored or presented by Leva. So Leva, it's an awesome company. I met them. They're based here in Zurich, and they're reinventing the way that syndicates invest serious amounts of capital. So fast, easy, cheap system without lawyers that you can set up in minutes. Anyone can apply. Anyone can run a syndicate. You can have 5 members or 5 million. The costs are exactly the same, and it's just a nice way to bring investing into the 21st century. To find out more, forward.vc/leva. If you go to that link and tell them you saw us on the Startup Tank, you should be able to get your first or second deal free. And they'll have some nice little bonuses for you. Forward.vc/leva. That's LEVA. And if you want to learn more about us and what we do, forward.vc. Now, thanks for tuning in. Thanks everybody for presenting. Michael, Daniel, thanks for helping us with judging the startups, giving some incredible feedback. And Andrea, Dror, Elad, Jan-Peter, Neil, Silvan, thanks for presenting and sharing everything that you guys are doing. Thanks for making the world better. Until next time, cheers, guys. Go get to work and make it happen.
Thanks, everyone.